Samsara dava nalalita loka Taranaya karunya gana gana tam Praptasya kalana gunarnavasya Vande uroshi charanarvindam Mahaprabhu kirtana nritya gita Vaditramadhyam manasora sena Romanchakam pashutaranga bhajo Vande guroshi charanarvindam Shivikrahara nitya nana Shingara Mandira Marjanado Yutasya Bhaktam Chaniyunjatopi Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Chaturvidashi Bhagavat Prasada Swadwana Tripta Haribhakta Sangha Kriteva Triptim Padatasadaiva Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Shiradika Madhavayora Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Namna Shiradika Madhavayora Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Namna Pratikshana Swadana Lolupasya Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Nikunja yuno ratikeli sitai Yayari pir yuktira peshaniya Tatrati dakshad adivallabhasya Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Sashatari Trina Samasta Shastre Utasthatapa Viteva Sadhi Trina Kintu Prabhoya Priyeva Tasya Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado Yasya prasadam nakati kutopi Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado Yasya prasadam nakati kutopi Dhyayanstu vamstasya yashasti sandhyan Vande guroshi charanaravindam Vande guroshi charanaravindam Vande guroshi charanaravindam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nilamada Radha Nilamada Shirate Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshana Jaya Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman Jaya Lakshmi Singha Jaya Lakshmi Singha Jaya Lakshmi Singha Jaya Lakshmi Singha Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Nitai Gaura Hari Bolo Hari Bolo Hari Bolo Nitai Gaura Hari Bolo Jai Om Vishnu Pada Brahmhamsa Prajakacharya Ashtota Shatashi Divine Grace Abharchana Rinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pada Brahmhamsa Prajakacharya Ashtota Shatashi Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Haridasa Kuru Ki Jai Premise Koho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glory to assembled devotees, all glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Namaste Narasingaya Praladaladaine Hiranyakasipo Rakshaha Silatanka Nakhalaye Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha Yeto Yeto Yami Tato Narsimha Bahe Narsimho Hrudaye Narsimho Bahe Narsimho Hrudaye Narsimho Narasingamadim Saranam Prapadye Narasingamadim Saranam Prapadye Tavakara Kamalavare Naka Madbhuta शृङ्गं दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गं केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमलवरे नाका मद्भुत शृङ्गा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गं केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदे 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 जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय प्रभुपाद की जय
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna Seva Pabo He Abhilasi Radha Krishna Seva Pabo He Abhilasi Ye tomara sharana loy Tara vancha purna hoy Kripa Kori Korotare Vrindavana Vasi Mora e Abhilas Vilas Kunjedioas Nayane Heribo Sada Yugala Rupa Rasi Eni Vedanadhara Sakiranugata Koro Seva Adhikara Diye Koro Nijadasi Dina Krishna Dase Koi Eye Namora Hoy Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayena Bhasi Yani Kani Chapapani Brahmachari Kani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradakshina Pade Pade Yani Kani Chapapani Brahmachari Kani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradakshina Pade Pade Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Vrinde, Jaya Vrinde, Jaya Vrinde, Jaya Shri Vrinde. Jaya Tusi Maharani, Jaya Tusi Maharani, Jaya Tusi Maharani, Jaya Tusi Maharani. Nita Goda Haribo, 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 Nita Goda Haribo. Jai Tusi Maharani Ki Jai. Shri Vrindayai Tusi Devai Priyayai Kesavai Sacha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Deve Sataratai Namo Namaha. Shri Vrindayai Tusi Devai Priyayai Kesavai Sacha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Deve Sataratai Namo Namaha. Shri Vrindayai Tusi Devai Priyayai Kesavai Sacha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Deve Sataratai Namo Namaha. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrindadevi Ki Jai.
Behold the beautiful pastime Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower, Kara Danso's Vraja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in the love, Shri Radha and Govinda, Srimati Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. There are 10 fences in the matter of chanting holy name that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for the propagation of holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuing the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one's auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glory of the holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chanting holy names and to maintain material attachments even understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are desert trees who can fulfill to everyone, and they are full of compassion for fallen conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam Ki Jai. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhavamaha Davagni Nirvapanam Shriya Kailava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pradipadam Purnamita Sadhanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Etadrishi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Turudevami Desham Yaha Janina Nuragaha Trinatapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sada Harihi Na Thanam Na Chanam Na Sundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishvare Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Tvai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Pavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stithaturi Satesham Vichintaya Nayanam Kaladashuru Daraya Vadanam Katkata Rudaya Gira Purakai Nichitam Vapurukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishati Yuga Itam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravisha Itam Shunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Ashirishavaha Padaratam Pinnashtumam Atarshanam Marmahatam Karotuva Yatha Tatha Va Vitatatu Lampato Matprananatastu Saeva Naparaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam Ki Jai. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays and benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grants all benediction in human beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendent names you have vested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, all the kindness enables us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maranjananda, I'm your eternal servitor, yet somehow I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy names? When will my voice choke up, and will the hair of my body stand at the recitation of your own name? O Govinda, feeling of separation, I'm considering the moment to be like a great millennium. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrents of rain, and feeling all weakened in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna my Lord, and he shall remain so if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord. Mangala Charnam prayers ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Mritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhuttale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachati Desha Tarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhuttale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhani Videvi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuyuchala Premadya Shirupanuka Bhaktita Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruta Pasithanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Saksha Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambo De Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumistwan Nirdishta Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jaganathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishin Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabanto Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Srato Pangor Mamamanda Matirkati Masarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Vindaranya Kalpajumataha Shimadranagar Singhasanasto Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Pristhari Pi Seva Mano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karshan Venu Suner Gopir Gopinatha Shri Yestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha
Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam
Chintamani Prakarasat Masukal Praviksha Lakshaviteshu Surabhira Pipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrahma Sevimanam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kvanantam Aravinda Dalaya Daksham Parharvatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Gandharva Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandrakala Sarvadamari Vamshi Ranangadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Chibanga Lalitam Yata Prakasham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Anganyasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achotam Anadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Tulabam Adulabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastukoti Shatavatsara Sampragamyo Vayuratapi Manaso Munipangavanan Sopyastiyat Prapadasimya Vichinta Tattve Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chaitum Jagadanta Kotim Yashakti Rasti Jagadanta Chayaya Danta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhakta Diyo Manujasta Teva Samprapya Rupam Himasana Yana Bhusha Suktaryam Eva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananta Chimmai Rasa Pradipavitati Sthapiya Eva Nijaruptaya Kalapi Goloka Eva Nivasati Kalatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churuta Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Vidayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundara Machintya Guna Swarupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalanya Menatishtan Nanavataram Makaro Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhava Paramapumamyo Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead.
He is an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin. And he is the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with a figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shyamasundara is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, he is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is the person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and at the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord residing in his own realm Goloka, with Radha resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamasundara, Krishna himself with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Nrisimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions.
Haribol. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharani Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskati Satarni Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Granth Raj Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So today I wanted to cover one other point that's absolutely essential in the Bhagavad Gita, and then we'll go into the third canto. And so if you look in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, and let's see, I'm on page 18. I don't know if it's the same page in your version of Bhagavad Gita, but it's talking about, therefore, Sanatan Dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion. Can you see that? It's on page 18 in my book, but it could be a different page. 16, okay? All right, so now we'll start reading. Now let's show her also. Just show her so she can see. You can read first, and everybody gets a chance to read. Prabhu, take a look in her book.
Page 16. Okay.
Therefore, Sanatana Dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Therefore, Sanatana Dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion. It is the eternal function of the eternal living entities in relationship with eternal Supreme Lord. Sanatana Dharma refers
This is very important.
as stated previously to the eternal occupation of the living entity.
This is who we are. This defines who we are. This is Sanatana Dharma. Go ahead.
Sripada Ramanujacharya has explained the word Sanatana as that which has neither beginning nor end. So, when we speak of Sanatana Dharma, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripada Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end. The English word religion is
That
a
means
little...
it's eternal. In the past, in the present, and the future. And this is who we are, actually. Go ahead.
The English word religion is a little different from Sanatana Dharma. Religion conveys the idea of faith, and faith may change. One may have faith in a particular process, and he may change his faith and adopt another. But Sanatana Dharma refers to that activity which cannot be changed. For instance, liquidity cannot be taken from water, nor can heat be taken from fire. Similarly, the eternal function of the eternal living entity cannot be taken from the living entity. Sanatana Dharma is eternally integral with the living entity. When we speak of Sanatana Dharma, therefore, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripada Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end. That which has neither end nor beginning must not be sectarian, for it cannot be limited by any boundaries. Those belongings to some sectarian faith will wrongly consider that Sanatana Dharma is also sectarian. But if we go deeply into the matter and consider it in the light of modern science, it is possible for us to see that Sanatana Dharma is the business of all the people of the world.
This is an amazing concept, Sanatana Dharma, because it defines who we are in the past, in the present, and the future. And it's unending. It doesn't have a beginning. It doesn't have an end. And it is universal. Every living entity, whether it's animal, plant, whatever, is engaged in somehow or other in this Sanatana Dharma. Go ahead.
Of all the living entities of the universe, non-Sanatana religious faith may have some beginning in the annals of human history.
That's like Christianity, that's like Islam, that's like Judaism. They have a beginning.
Sikhism.
Sanatana Dharma has no beginning and no end. Go ahead.
But there is no beginning to the history of Sanatana Dharma because it remains eternally with the living entities. Insofar as the living entities are concerned, the authoritative Shastras state that the living entity has neither birth nor death. In the Gita, it is stated that the living entity is neither born and he never dies. He is eternal and indestructible. And he continues to live after the destruction of this temporary material body. In reference to the concept of Sanatana Dharma, we must try to understand the concept of religion from the Sanskrit root meaning of the word. Dharma refers to which is constantly existing with a particular object. We conclude that there is heat and light along with the fire. Without heat and light, there is no beginning to the word fire. Similarly, we must discover the essential part of the living being, that part which is his constant companion. That constant companion in his eternal quality, and that eternal quality is his eternal religion.
It's his eternal what?
Religion.
Religion, yeah.
When Sanatana Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the Swarupa of every living being, the Lord replied that the Swarupa or constitutional position of the living being is the rendering of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So that is Sanatana Dharma right there. That's the actual statement of what it is. And Swarupa means the constitutional position of a living entity. Who is the living entity? What is his eternal quality that cannot be changed in the past, the present, the future? Go ahead.
If we analyze this statement of Lord Chaitanya's, we can easily see that every living being is constantly engaged in rendering service to another living being. A living being serves other living beings in various capacities. By doing so, the living entity enjoys life. The lower animals serve human beings as servants serve their master. A serves B master, B serves C master, and C serves D master, and so on. Under these circumstances, we can see that one friend serves another friend. The mother serves the son. The wife serves the husband serves the wife, and so on. If we go on searching in the spirit, it will be seen that there is no exception in the society of living beings to the activity of service.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what religion, what ethnicity, whether they believe in God or they don't believe in God. This is the constitutional position of living entity. It's called Sanatana Dharma. It cannot be changed. Whatever species also. Go ahead.
The politician presents his manifesto for the public to convince them of his capacity for service. The voters therefore give the politician their valuable votes, thinking that he will render valuable service to society. The shopkeeper serves the customer, and the artisan serves the capitalist.
Artisan.
The capitalist serves the family, and the family serves the state in the terms of the eternal capacity of the eternal living being. In this way, we can see that no living being is exempt from rendering service to other living beings, and therefore we can safely conclude that service is the constant companion of the living being, and that the rendering of service is the eternal religion of the living being.
Rendering of service is the eternal religion of the living being. Very interesting.
Yet, man professes to belong to a particular type of faith with reference to the particular time and circumstance, and thus claims to be a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or an adherent of any other sect. Adherent of any other sect. Such designations are non-Sanatana Dharma. A Hindu may change his faith to become a Muslim, or a Muslim may change his faith to become a Hindu, or a Christian may change his faith, and so on. But in all circumstances, the change of religious faith does not affect the eternal occupation of rendering service to others. The Hindu, Muslim, or Christian is all circumstances is a servant of someone. Thus, to profess a particular type of faith is not to profess one's Sanatana Dharma. The rendering of service is Sanatana Dharma.
It's an amazing statement by Prabhupada.
Factually, we are related to the Supreme Lord in service. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Enjoyer, and we, living entities, are His servitors. We are created for His...
His what?
Servitors?
Servitors.
Servitors. We are created for His enjoyment, and if we participate in that eternal enjoyment with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we become happy. We cannot become happy otherwise. It is not possible to be happy independently. Just as no one part of the body can be happy without cooperating with the stomach. It is not possible for the living entity to be happy without rendering transcendental loving service unto the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, worship of different demigods or rendering service to them is not approved. It is stated in the 7th chapter, 20th verse, Kamaistais tair hrita jnana prapadyante nya devata tam niyamam ashtaya prakritya niyata swaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigod and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Here it is plainly said that those who are directed by lust worship the demigods and not the Supreme Lord, Krishna. When we mention the name Krishna, we do not refer to any sectarian name. Krishna means the highest pleasure, and it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is the reservoir or storehouse of all pleasure. We are all hankering after pleasure. Anandamayo bhayashat. Bhyasat. Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12. The living entities, like the Lord, are full of consciousness and they are after happiness. The Lord is perpetually happy, and if the living entities associate with the Lord, cooperate with Him, and take part of His association, then they also become happy.
Take part in His association.
Take part in His association, then they also become happy. The Lord descends to this mortal world to show His pastimes in Vrindavana, which are full of happiness. When Lord Sri Krishna was in Vrindavana, His activities with His cowherd boyfriends, with His damsel friends, with the other inhabitants of Vrindavana, and with the cows were all full of happiness. The total population of Vrindavana knew nothing but Krishna. But Lord Krishna even discouraged his father Nanda Maharaj from worshipping the demigod Indra, because he wanted to establish the fact that people need not worship any demigod. They need only worship the Supreme Lord.
Okay, so we'll stop right there. So this is an explanation of Sanatana Dharma. And if we understand this, then we become a real, let's say, profound preacher of Krishna consciousness. This is a universal concept. It includes all living entities in the past, the present, and the future. And it's something that defines every living entity. What is that? It's service to Krishna. So if we engage practically in the service of Krishna, we have attained the perfection of human life. And we're engaged in Sanatan Dharma. Jivera Swarupahaya Nityara Krishna Das. The real occupational duty of every living entity is to render service to Krishna. So, now we're going to go somewhere else. So, if we go to the Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, 1st chapter, 39th verse, and it's a lecture on June 5th, 1976, in Los Angeles. Okay, so Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, 1st chapter, 39th verse, June 5th, 1976. Anybody has that? You have that? Okay. So you go down to the 3rd paragraph. It says, so what is Dharma, religion?
So, what is dharma, religion? In the dictionary, English dictionary, it is explained a kind of faith, but we do not take it that way. Faith, you have got different faith. I have got different faith. How will it be dharma? The same example, if you have different faith, that you do not accept the government law, that will not do. You may have faith or no faith, but you have to accept. That is dharma. That is dharma. So, they very particularly analyzed dharma. Dharma means, I have given translation in many places, occupational duty. Everyone is fit for certain occupation. And the duty ascertained for such occupation, that is dharma. Natural.
It's called ascertained.
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 Ascertained. Ascertained. For such occupation, that is dharma. Natural. Or in one word, it can be explained as characteristic. So just like a chemical, it has got some characteristic in the chemical analytical book that takes soda bicarb. The characteristic.
Sodium bicarbonate. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sodium bicarbonate. That the characteristic, it tastes like this, color is like this, so many things. That child is, okay, this is side conversation. So dharma means characteristic. So what is the dharma of the living entity? We're all living entities. What is the dharma? What is the characteristic? Common. Not that because I'm Hindu, my characteristic is different from your characteristic. As living being, our characteristic is the same. Either you are Hindu or Muslim or Christian or white or black, never mind. What is that characteristic? That characteristic is to serve. The inferior must serve the superior, that's all. That is characteristic. Find out all over the universe, it is the service. This is explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivera Swarupa Hai Nityera Krishna Das, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 20.108 to 109. That is the real characteristic. That is his real characteristic. He is eternal servant of God or Krishna. This is the characteristic. So if you do not serve God, then you have to serve dog. But you have to serve. You see practically, so many godless persons, they have no family, no affection, no position, no home, nothing. But still, he keeps a dog to serve. That is the characteristic. Because he has nothing to serve, he has no wife, no children, nothing. So he must have somebody, so keep a dog. So just see practically, he cannot avoid service. That is your characteristic. If you don't serve God, then you have to serve dog. Now make your choice, whether you shall spoil your life by serving dog and become next life a dog, or by serving God, you in next life you can become God. Make your choice. This is Krishna conscious movement. If you want to become a dog next life, that is a must. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram. Bhagavad Gita 8.6. At the time of death, if you are affectionate to the dog, naturally you will think of dog, and your soul will be transferred into the womb of a dog. That is nature's way. And similarly, if you practice to love God in this life, at the time of death, naturally you will think of God. Then, next life, Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti kaunteya. Bhagavad Gita 4.9. It is explained, Tyaktva deham. Everyone has to give up this body. But if at the time of quitting this body, if you think of Krishna, immediately you will go back to him, back to Godhead Krishna.
Back to home.
Back to home. That is the opportunity. If you ask, of course, anyone who is desirous of going back home, back to Godhead, he knows everything about Krishna. Otherwise, why he should be eager? So Krishna is always joyful. Krishna is always joyful. Just like see before you, Krishna is joyfully accepting to be bound up by his mother. He is Supreme Lord. No one can chastise him, but he is taking pleasure. How my mother chastises me. This is also another pleasure. Just like a very rich man, he always eats very nice food stuff. So sometimes he wants, can you give me a little puffed rice? Puffed rice is not very valuable food, but he likes. This is change of variety of enjoyment. So everyone worships God, my Lord, my Lord, my Lord. So therefore God sometimes wants, who will chastise me? He selects one of his devotees, first class devotees. You become my father, you become my mother, and you chastise me. That is God's pleasure. Ananda mayo bhyasad. That is God. Ananda. That is Ananda. Here Mother Yashoda is going to bind Krishna. It is not his displeasure. He is not unhappy. He is feeling happy. That is Krishna. So in this way we have to understand Krishna thoroughly. If you understand thoroughly Krishna, you are liberated. You are liberated. Janma karma chame divyam yo janati tattvataha. Bhagavad Gita 4.9. One may question that they may neglect that if Krishna is God, why Mother Yashoda is binding him? But he does not know that is the pleasure. That is a pleasure. That is a pleasure. There are many instances. I'll cite one instance that there was a big prime minister in England, Gladstone.
Okay, we read that yesterday. So, to understand what is Sanatana Dharma is extremely important for every devotee. It's not a prejudicial thing like, oh, in my religion we do like this. Everybody, whether they have religion or they don't have religion, their Sanatana Dharma or their Dharma is service. And their Sanatana Dharma is service to Krishna. So that defines who you are. Now, if we understand that, all of a sudden, we no longer are prejudicial. We now know what is the real, let's say, secret of preaching. The real secret of preaching is to get people engaged in service, somehow or other, right? And to give them a chance. Now, one person who was really expert at this, his name was Jayananda Das. You may or may not know about him. But he understood this. So he was always getting people engaged in service, especially when he was building the Rath Yatra cart. He's the one who built the first Rath Yatra cart and started the Rath Yatra festival for Srila Prabhupada. So he would construct the cart in Golden Gate Park, and people would come by and they'd see him building this beautiful cart. And they would stop and say, "What are you doing?" And he would explain to them. And he said, "Can you just hold this hammer for a second?" And then all of a sudden he would get them involved in the service. See? And many people were introduced to Krishna consciousness by him because of his understanding the value of service, even a very rudimentary little service. At least their spiritual life started there. See? So we should be like that. When you see someone walk in the temple for the first time, hey, you should smile. You should say, "Hello, my name is so-and-so. What is your name?" And little by little, get them to do something that's related to serving Krishna. They will appreciate that. This one man came to the temple once. He was an American guy. And whenever I see people coming first time to the temple, I try and talk to them, especially if they're not Indian, although I have no prejudice. I talk to Indians also. But so when I talked to him, I said, "Hello." I said, "Is this the first time you've been to a Hare Krishna temple?" He said, "No, I've been there many times." I said, "Where's that?" He said, "New York." I said, "Oh, do you know so-and-so?" He said, "No." I said, "How about this person? You know him?" "No." "How about that person?" "No." I said, "How many times did you go to the temple?" He said, "Oh, many times." And I said, "It's strange that you don't know any of those devotees." He said, "You are the first devotee that's ever spoken to me." What? He went many times to the New York temple. Nobody spoke to him. He comes to our temple. I speak to him. And he says, "You're the first devotee that's ever spoken to me." See, now that's shocking. So we should be very, very, let's say, concerned about Sanatana Dharma. It is the constitutional position of every living entity. It's to render service to Krishna. That's who we are. So if you give people a chance to do some even insignificant service to Krishna, that's the beginning of their spiritual life. So we should be very focused on that point, especially with new people, with anybody. Okay, so I thought it would be very important to hear about that. It's right there in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita. You can see how important it is. Okay, are there any questions about this?
So Maharaj, to serve is the basically Sanatana Dharma. Like everybody now
Serve Krishna.
To serve, yeah. I think that's where I wanted to. I mean, I know that Prabhupada eventually kind of saying
Well, everybody's serving somebody.
Correct.
You don't have anyone to serve. You buy a dog or a cat and you serve them. They can't stop serving. Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think because somewhere Prabhupada says
the
that
eternal service is service to Krishna.
To Krishna, yeah. So everybody's dharma is to serve, but the Sanatana Dharma is to serve the Supreme Lord. Is that?
Yeah, the perfection
of
service. To serve the Lord. Because it's reciprocal.
Yeah.
And it's eternal. It's unending. But service, whether you're serving Krishna or not serving Krishna, service is the essential quality of the living entity. And all living entities are serving. The mother bird is serving the baby birds. Right? So in every species there's service in one way or the other.
So the religion is at the mental platform level. Is that because the faith is at the mind level?
Someone says, "Oh, I'm Muslim."
Yeah.
Somebody else says, "I'm Hindu." Someone else says, "I'm a Christian." All of those religions have a beginning and an end. Sanatana Dharma has no beginning or no end. They could have been, they might be Muslim in this life, previous lives they might have been something else. But they were engaged in some type of service. The service is the Dharma, and Serving Krishna is the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal service, unending. There's no beginning, there's no end. So that's the definition of Ramanujacharya. Right? Why don't you read that again? The statement, Ramanuja, right in the beginning, right?
Therefore, Sanatana Dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion. It is the eternal function of the eternal living entities in relationship with the eternal Supreme Lord. Sanatana Dharma refers, as stated previously, to the eternal occupation of the living entity. Sripada Ramanujacharya has explained the word Sanatana as that which has neither beginning nor end. So when we speak of Sanatana Dharma, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripada Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end.
Very good. You see, Prabhupada is not prejudiced. He doesn't say, well, Ramanujacharya is in the Sri Vaishnava tradition, that's not our tradition. No. He's quoting him. He's a number one, what you would call authority on Krishna consciousness. So it doesn't matter which sampradaya he's in. He's in a bona fide sampradaya, the Sri Sampradaya. And Prabhupada's quoting him, and he mentions his name 3, 4, 5 times. Right? So we have to see the what is this unifying concept called Sanatana Dharma. It unifies people. So we want to unify people. We don't want to. We don't want to divide people. So many, let's say, movements and religions, they divide people. Just like the Christians say, well, if you don't accept Jesus, you're lost, you're fried, you're finished. And that's dividing people. The concept of Sanatana Dharma is not dividing, it's coalescing, it's putting everyone in the same category of eternal servants of the Lord. Jivera Swarupahaya Nityara Krishna Das. So we have to understand this. If we understand this, then we become a really effective as well as mature preacher. Just like the devotee who did the first Rath Yatra cart, Jayananda Prabhu, he understood this principle of Sanatana Dharma, and he engaged people all the time in doing some type of service for Krishna. And he was very, very much loved because of that. Yeah. Okay, so we'll stop right there. No more questions?
Maharaj, so when we say we always serve another living entity or one living entity eternally to Supreme Lord Krishna, but there are some people within my own family who says the animals are there to serve us, so what is wrong in eating them? So they have that profound
Well, what if the animals said that? The human beings are there to serve us, therefore we can eat them. Would they like that?
True, Maharaj. I mean, so how do we...
How are you saying they're serving you by killing them and eating them? You say. It's very interesting.
So to me, it's a level of ignorance, but
an extreme level of ignorance.
But how do you even say anything, don't say anything, just walk out, or what?
Well, no, you say, well, what if the animals said that human beings are meant to serve us, therefore we can kill them and eat them? Would they like that? They would say, no. They're supposed to serve us so we can kill them and eat them. No, they can. The animals could say the same thing, and there are animals like that, like the tiger or the lion or the snake, right? So there has to be what's called empathy. That's a good word. Look at it. EMPHTY. Empathy. Or empathize. What's it say? There you go. The ability to understand and share the feelings of others. So, if you, if you take a knife and point it at a chicken and start walking toward it, what do you think the chicken would do?
Run away.
It would run away. Right? Now, let's say some big guy has a knife and he starts working toward you with the knife. What would you do?
Run away.
You'd do the same thing as the chicken. You'd run as fast as you can. Right? So what's the difference? The chicken has a family, you have a family. The chicken can walk and talk, you walk and talk. The chicken eats and pass stool, you eat and pass stool. We can go down a list of all the similarities between the chicken and a human being. And you walk toward the chicken with a knife, the chicken will run away. Somebody walks toward you with a knife, you would run away. So then what's the difference between the chicken and you? So there has to be this empathy, this understanding another person's position and characteristics. So when you see that there are many, many similar characteristics, then we cannot make these assumptions that, the animal is meant to serve us, therefore we can kill them and eat them. That is gross ignorance. Now let's say there's nothing else to eat and people are starving. In that case, maybe, if it's a real fact, you could kill an animal and eat it. But as soon as everything would come back to normal, you have to stop. Right. So we're not 100% against meat eating, but it's only in a very, very dire condition when there's nothing else. So we've never been in that position. We've never experienced that, so it's not a question. But if there ever was a condition like that, then you could temporarily engage in meat eating. And there are examples of that in the Vedic history. Right. But in normal time, there's no need for anything like that. So these things have to be understood. We're not fanatics, but on the other hand, we are very, very careful not to perform unnecessary violence. That's what puts us in a very difficult situation. Either violence in the form of criticism or harsh speech or physical violence or mental violence. We should never scare people. We shouldn't threaten people. So all these things we learn by hearing the classes and thinking deeply about what's being said. So today we looked into the question of Sanatana Dharma, what it is. If you understand this, you become an excellent preacher. If you don't understand it, you will make many mistakes. Okay, we'll stop right there unless there's a question.
Maharaj, does that mean dharma changes depending on the situation?
No. No, Dharma is eternal, past, present, and future. So why would you say Dharma changes according to
So the basic dharma is to serve others, but in the example where in the rarest form, if we are to kill the animal and eat, if that situation comes, does that mean we are for that time being? Does that dharma takes a?
It's a very, very, let's say, exceptional situation.
Right.
Have you ever experienced anything like
No,
that? No,
Maharaj.
either have I. All the
Yeah.
years I've been living, so it's very, very rare. Self-preservation is a material concept, but yeah. Yes. There's no other choice. But very few people will experience such a situation. Like, for example, there was this earthquake, and this mother and her daughter were under the rubble of a house. They were stuck. So their only hope was to stay alive long enough to get dug out of the rubble. So in order to keep the child alive, the mother kept pinching her fingers and giving it to the child to suck the blood so the child would have sustenance, not to die. They have some liquid and some protein or something. Right? So those are very exceptional situations, right? So all of us, hardly any of us will ever experience something like that. But it's possible. And then in order to maintain life, you might have to do things like that. But it hardly ever happens to people. So that's, there's a saying in English, you can look it up. The exception does not change the rule. Look it up. The exception does not change the rule. Okay. So what does it say? Does it explain it, or it just... Here, here's the microphone.
So this is basically saying, in this sense, the phrase does not mean that an exception demonstrates a rule to be or not to be, but
Okay, read that again. I didn't understand. Go ahead. Start from the beginning.
Wikipedia. So exception does not. Oh, sorry, I'm picked the wrong one, Maharaj. Sorry. Exception that proves the rule. Exception that. This one. No, this is exception that proves the rule. So the other way. Did you find something?
This phrase has its origins in a Latin legal principle that stated the exception confirms the rule in case not expected. In other words, when there is an exception to a rule, we know that there must be a rule to which it has an exception, even when this rule isn't explicit. That's what they say.
Even though what?
Even though we know that there must be a rule to which it is an exception, even when this rule isn't explicit. It
Isn't explicit?
Yes, that's what they say, Maharaj. Oh, okay.
So is there anything like the exception does not change the rule? I'm not sure what you mean by the exception proves the rule. Yeah. The exception means there is a rule.
It is like this, Maharaj. If you run every day but take Saturdays off, you are making an exception. You are working every day but taking Saturdays off, so it is like an exception. Because rule is every day you're working, you're meant to work.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything like exception change that doesn't change the rule?
There is one which says exception that proves the rule. Oh no. So one explanation Maharaji says the phrase exception does not change the rule means that just because there is an exception to a general rule, it does not mean that the rule itself is invalid or should be ignored.
Yeah, that's the point.
In other words, an exception to a rule does not necessarily nullify the rule itself. Yeah, correct.
That's the point.
We have some examples.
So the rule is you don't kill animals to eat them. But there might be an exception that's very, very rare and hardly ever happens. But that doesn't change the rule.
Usually non-believers pick up that small exception.
Yeah, the exception changes the rule, yeah.
And they fit their own agenda into it.
Yeah, exactly.
In Vedic, like Vedas said that you should kill the cow because there were certain this, but they don't have the full context behind it. The context is missing, and so killing cow is a separate.
Yeah. Yes.
Ma-
Send me the statement that you found. Yeah.
Maharaj, one quick question. See, when we actually explain to in the materialistic world, people like in work or somewhere in karmic, we need to do this service and all that will help you. Usually, their immediate question is what I will. See, if we give an example that hey, you are also serving in the company, they will say that. They are giving salary and money, that's why we work so sincerely. But if we do this kind of a thing, we don't get benefit immediately. How to answer them? See, a lot of people, they think if you do something, they should get the benefits immediately. Is it possible to connect and say that what kind of a benefit they can get immediately, Maharaj, so that we can attract better?
Okay. So this is explained. There are certain things that happen when you begin devotional service. Number one, a life of auspiciousness begins. Number two, you become relieved of anxiety and fear. Number three, you become happy. Number four, you realize that this is something very rare and wonderful. Number five, you realize that there's no other way to attract God. These are things that happen when you take up devotional service. The first is you begin a life of auspiciousness, where good things start happening to you. And number two, you begin to become happy, because you've given up sinful activities. Right? And number three, you realize this is a very rare thing. That if you continued doing what you were doing before, it wouldn't be like this. So, okay, so that's in the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion. You can look it up. Look up the Nectar of Devotion, the first page, or second page. These are things that you experience when you begin devotional service. And they're immediate. You see something? In the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion. The immediate things that happen when you take up devotional service. Yeah, okay, the characteristics of devotional service. Right in the beginning of
Yeah, characteristics of devotional service. Pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. Number two, pure devotional service is the beginning of all auspiciousness. Number three, pure devotional service automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure. Number four, pure devotional service is rarely achieved. Number five, those in pure devotional service deride even the conception of liberation. Number six, pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna.
There you go. These are things you'll experience almost immediately if you take up pure devotional service. These are immediate results. And I saw this when I used, in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, we used to go out, meet people on the street. A lot of them were hippies, they were dirty, they were suffering, they had bugs in their hair and everything. We'd take them back to the temple, shave their head. As we shaved the head, the bugs would start jumping up and down out of their hair, right? And then now they have a shaved head, they take a bath, they put on a dhoti. All of a sudden, problems go away. Now they're eating prasadam every day, they're going out dancing in the streets, and they're taking rest early, waking up early, chanting the rounds. Almost overnight, the whole life changed. That's what happens if you take up pure devotional service. Everything changes right away. All right, so now you know what to show them. Beginning of the Nectar of Devotion, first page.
This will be very helpful, because instead of we telling our own way, we can say that this is the...
Well, whenever you repeat what Prabhupada and the Vaishnava Acharyas have said, no one can argue with you. They'll try, but they won't succeed. Okay, then now we'll stop. Hare Krishna. Glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. First page. First page.
Yeah, I was just trying to see that book. There is like details, introduction. It's chapter 1. Oh, chapter 1. Chapter.
Introduction, Maharaj, that we read today is one of the lines. Rendering of service is the eternal religion of the living being.
Yes.
So religion is like Muslim, Christianity, but it becomes eternal.
Well, it's not Muslim or Christianity. Sanatan Dharma.
No, religion means faith, right? Like temporary.
No. Real meaning of religion is your eternal occupational duty.
Yeah.
It's not faith. Faith you can change. Your eternal occupational duty does not change. You do it eternally. Okay? That's what you change. What a wonderful concept. It makes people forget. It's surprising that they are not promoting Sanatana Dharma in this way.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bandhamui Savadhana Mate Jahara Prasade Toriya Jai Jai Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya Arna kori ho mane asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेदे गाय जहाँ चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनारा बंधु लोके नाथ लोके राजीवाना हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पादा छाया हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पादा छाया ए बेजास गुशुक त्रिभुवाना श्रीला प्रभुपाद पतिता पावाना जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिन्यति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतार जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंद चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord birth after birth. From his ecstatic frame emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto me. Give your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada ki jai.